Okay, so we're going to write a little math program in BASIC on my old color computer. It's going to be fairly simple. It'll test your multiplication skills. It'll ask you for the number of questions that you want to have it ask you. It'll ask you the range of numbers that it'll use, and then it'll go and ask you all the questions using random numbers to generate the numbers, and it'll calculate the answers, and at the end it'll tell you how many you got right and how many you got wrong. Let's start by asking the player, introducing itself and asking the player how many questions they'd like to have answered and what the range of numbers is. So print is used to output text. For instance, if I wanted to screen recording is really messing this up. Let's see if I can change something there. Okay, good. That seems to be more acceptable. The screen recording is making it run slower than normal, so yeah, it seems to be messing up the key capture. But anyways, list lets you see what the program looks like. Run will actually execute the program. CLS clears the screen. And any command you can actually type in here, you can have it as part of the program. So CLS, now the program looks like this. And you'll notice that the line number 5 went before line number 10. So that's a really good way to keep your line numbers, or keep the order of the program. This will renumber the line numbers. So instead of going from 5 to 10, it's now 10 to 20. Very handy when your program's kind of messy, but it also tends to screw you up a little bit when you already know, like, something is at line 100. When you renumber it, that line 100 might become line 200 or 110 or something like that. So typically you start at 10 and you increment by 10 each time. So let's see here. Let's also change to a high resolution so we can see more. New starts the program over. So now we don't have anything in memory. I'm going to go like this. There's our new program. Perfect. Now, another thing about list, you can list a range of lines. So for instance, let's add a couple more lines. Okay, so now there's our 3 lines. So we can list from line 10 to line 20, or from 20 to 30, or how about everything up to line 20, or everything from line 20 and up. This comes in handy when the program becomes longer than an entire screen, unlike something like C or assembly even, or Java, where you have an editor and you can just scroll around super easy. Not like that in the early days of BASIC. You're basically stuck to this really primitive editor, but no worries, we can work with it. Alright, so let's have it introduce itself. Don't really... There we go. Perfect. So, that prints a blank line. Now there is a way to actually combine multiple commands on a line, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Now let's actually ask for something. So to do that, you say input. You can give it the prompt. And then where you would like that to be stored. So we're putting it into a variable called nstring for name. And then we're going to print that. So here's our program, and let's run it. Notice it's asking for your name. Now there's 2 question marks because I forgot that input automatically appends a question mark to it. So we'll type in the name. Perfect. So let's edit line 50. Now this is where the primitive editor really comes in. I'm using space to go through this. When I get to there, I hit X to delete it. Whoops, no, that's not right. Let's try that again. I completely forget how to use this editor. D. There we go. And then you enter, there's the new line. Alright, perfect. So let's rerun the program. Perfect. Alright. Let's keep going. Let's ask how many questions you would like to be, you would want. Questions. We'll put this in Q. Now you notice the difference between nstring and Q. Q is a integer variable, so you can say something like Q equals 5, but you can't say Q string equals 5. Doesn't like that type mismatch. But to confuse things, you can say Q string equals 5, and it Q string is just a string of letters and stuff. Q is an actual number, so you can do things like print Q times 3, but you can't say Q string times 3. That's just a type mismatch error. So without the string, it's numerical. With the string, it's characters. So let's do this again. How many questions? And then we're going to ask for what the range is. I'll assign that to maximum. Alright, so let's do this. And we'll start asking questions. For I equals 1, 2, Q. Now let's just first show you what the for loop does. It will count from 1 to whatever number you specify. In this case it's Q. Actually, let me just show you this. For I equals 1 to 10. Here we're actually combining one thing or multiple things in one line. Print I, next I. So what happens is it'll count from 1 to 10. It'll print whatever's between the for loop and the next. or it'll execute whatever's in between there. In this case, it's printing the value, and then it increments it. So, boom. And we just did a for loop. So, let's go back to our program. All right, 20. Now we're going to have to come up with a couple of numbers. So, a random number generator is RND, and then we give it a range. So this will go from 1 to 5. Whoops. It's pretty cool. Now what I don't remember is if it goes from 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. But I think it's 1 to 5. Even if it's 0, that's fine. Multiplication in 0 is perfectly acceptable. Actually, there's an easy way for us to test that. Let's do this. Let's start a 300 4 equals 1 to, let's say 1,000. And this is just to find out if random goes to 0. I could look it up, but it's also sometimes nice to actually see what the program actually does. If n equals 0, then print detected and end. Alright, cool. So that's just a little test. So we'll run starting at 300. It certainly looks like it's between 1 and 5. Alright, I'm satisfied with that. So we're going to go with that. So now our program actually includes those ones, so let's get rid of that. 300, 310, 330, 340. Okay, cool. So A, it was the first number, R&D, and then the max numbers was M. B equals R&D M. Now, let's ask the question. Print number I let's do this. A times B. Alright, if we put a semicolon at the end of print, it keeps the cursor there instead of dropping down to the next line. So we put C, which is the player's answer. And then we can 160 if A times B equals C, then print you are right. And let me just do it this way. If A times B is not equal to C, then print you got it wrong. Alright, let's just test that. So here's our whole program. Now we're not let's actually finish that. Loop 180 next. Now let's run that. How many questions? We'll go with 3 questions. Range of numbers, 10. Okay. Number 1, 1 times 6. Let's give it a wrong answer. 1. You got it wrong. 1 times 6 again. 6. You got it right. 7 times 4. Wrong. Perfect. So there's 3 questions. They went through that for loop 3 times, created random numbers, checked our answer, and was able to tell whether or not we were right or wrong. Perfect. So we also wanted to actually know how many you actually got right and how many you got wrong. So we're going to add a variable in there to know how many you actually got right. So print you got, we'll say this is right. Let's do out of alright, then edit 160, we're going to change that, and at the end of the line we're also going to say r equals r plus 1. So what that does, if we say r equals 5, r is 5, then we say r equals r plus 1, now when we say print r, it's equals 6, because we've just added 1 to it. It's basically saying r equals, instead of saying r equals 5, we're saying r equals r, which is 5, plus 1, which is 6, so now r equals 6. So that's what's happening in line 160. Okay, so there we are, we're adding it. So let's run that and see what happens. Alright, so we want 3 questions. Range of, let's just say 5. 2 times 3, we'll give it the wrong answer. 1 times 1, we'll give it the right answer. And we'll give it the right answer. Alright, so I got 2 out of 3. Perfect. So I'm going to remove that dot because apparently BASIC is printing some spaces around the numbers. Like that. And let's edit 140 so it looks nicer. Insert. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. 2 questions. 5 times 5 times 5. 2. Yeah, close enough. That looks decent. Alright, so let's now you notice it doesn't actually use your name ever again, so let's add something to that. Say 200 print 200 print in string. You've got r of Q. And that's that. Okay. That's actually okay. Let's go with 5 questions. Range of numbers up to 10. 4 times 1 is 4. 7 times 2 is 14. 2 times 8 is 16. And 6 times 1, let's give it a wrong answer. And 7 times 10 is 70. There we go. We got 4 out of 5. Woohoo! That's it. That's our little math program. That took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 lines of code. Boom. If you have any questions at all, feel free to drop a line and I'll see if I can answer it for you. Thanks. And keep coding.